Welcome back to the Wealthy Lawyer Squad podcast. I am so excited to be sitting here today with my friend Rahysa Vargas for a very special International Women's Month episode. We're going to talk about Rahysa's journey, her career, her background. We're going to share, what our journeys have been as women in the law, what this month means to us, and, maybe even touch on a few people who have influenced us on our journeys. But I'm so excited, Rahysa, to have you. Rahysa is the founder and the managing partner of Vargas Law, where she primarily represents clients in PI matters and with commercial and residential real estate needs, including negotiations, closing, and title. Before starting Vargas Law, Rahysa represented insurance carriers and corporate defendants in catastrophic injury cases, premise liability cases, cases involving rideshare, like Uber. Oh, I was just in an Uber accident. Not fun. Negligent security cases, property claims, class actions. And not that Rahysa really needs an introduction, especially if you're here in the South Florida area. She's also the founder of the incredibly successful and popular networking group, Miss Esquire, which is just amazing and has truly taken the legal industry by storm down here. So excited to be sitting down with you today and especially in this month as we celebrate.
Thank you so much for having me and the amazing introduction. I'm excited. You are amazing and incredible in your own way. And I'm just honored to be here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm honored to have you. So I'd love to hear, obviously I gave kind of the more official bio, but tell us a little bit about your legal journey, where you started, how you ended up starting your own firm, and how did you come up with the idea of Miss Esquire? Because it has just absolutely exploded.
So basically I am actually an immigrant myself, and my parents both migrated here from Colombia, and through everything that we kind of went through and the whole process, I kind of always knew I wanted to be an attorney. I just thought I was going to be an immigration attorney, ironically enough, and I'm not an immigration attorney, but I think from a very young age, I felt like there was a huge need to represent people, and especially communities that were underserved or didn't really have an opportunity to be served. And so I just always was intrigued by either being a politician or being an attorney. And those were the two things that I was convinced I was going to do in my life. So I think most people kind of get into the legal world unless their family was their attorney, which in my case, I'm first generation everything. There was nobody even went to college, but most of us kind of go in with the idea that we want to help people. And that is a reality of I think most of us go into that profession thinking that. So that's the reason why I wanted to be an attorney. And then eventually I worked for 6 years for somebody else in different, I worked in a big law firm. I did a lot of litigation. And I just have always, my father's an entrepreneur. My entire family is entrepreneurs. And there wasn't really another option when they came here. So they've kind of always started their own business. I've always loved the idea of starting my own business, especially because I feel there's nobody that, if you're the hardest person working in the room. And I just always felt like I could do that for me. So I decided to go off on my own after I had my first son. I had Kai, and then I felt like it was time. I didn't want to litigate anymore. And I loved real estate. So I went into the transactional section of real estate, and I've never looked back. It's been the best decision of my life. Plus Miss Esquire has really been a catalyst as to why I went off on my own. So many people, which I guess we'll talk about in a second what that is, but so many people from the group would constantly tell me because of the group, I went off on my own. I had the courage to go off on my own, and people supported my journey from when I started my firm. And I was like, wow, all of these incredible women had the courage to go off on their own. And then the person that started the group hasn't gone off on their own. So I just felt like it was time. And I'm grateful that I did, for sure.
Wait, so you started Miss Esquire while you were still at the other firm. You didn't have your own firm yet?
No. So I started Miss Esquire the first year I started practicing. So I was actually at Kelly Cronenberg at the time. Yeah.
Wait, okay. Yeah. Give us like the whole scoop, because I've only known you for a few years. So I've seen, it's already built, it's already thriving. I didn't know the whole backstory. So this is awesome.
Yeah, so I actually was this is my first year practicing law. And I just felt like there was a real need for women to kind of collaborate, to mentor each other, to there just wasn't enough women in the legal practice. I'm sure you get this. Like there just wasn't a lot of women in the legal practice that you can ask questions to. And everybody that was our counterparts or worked in my firm were predominantly males. All the senior partners, managing partners, the owners of firms, which is kind of sad, but it's the truth. And so I just felt like, wouldn't it be incredible to meet the women that have been like trailblazers in their firms, that have like did become the managing partners, that there's not that many, but I wanted to meet them. So I created this group called Miss Esquire, because Miss and then Esquire, attorneys. And we made it a closed group, and I started in South Florida. Like I just, I asked some people that I graduated with law school, they added other people. And then just like within a month, there was like over 2,000 people requesting to be a part of the group. And so we had to vet every single person to make sure that they had a bar license number. And now we're a little over 10,500 people, but we capped it. So there's a little over 4,000 people that we need to get in. And it's all over. We actually represent every single state in the United States, which is kind of cool. And we even have like a subdivision of that in Europe too, which is interesting. So that's kind of how the group started. And the idea was that the entire group was to kind of help one another, to collaborate, to motivate each other. And so, that's how it kind of blossomed into what it is today.
Okay. I am like extremely blown away. So we have first year associate Rahysa's like, I'm going to start this group. I see a need, I'm a brand new attorney. I see this need. I'm going to go and start this group on my own. And now to know what you have grown it to, I mean, I heard about it probably 5 or 6 years ago, well before I started my firm. But obviously now I've seen it in action more in the past couple of years, and I am just wow, like hats off to you that you did that. Like, what gave you like, I don't know, the confidence or the ability to start that at such an early stage of your career?
I mean, here's one area that I think I've always kind of been like a go-getter in that sense. And I don't know that it's necessarily full of confidence. Just like, I always feel like if there's something that needs to be done, then I want to do it, and I just, even in law school, that's kind of my personality. So if there's like, instead of talking about it, like, what can I do to put it into action? And then that's how the group got formed. But I think what's been the reason why it's grown so much is that other people knew that there was a need too. Like, it was like, I'm not the only person that thought that there was a need for that, maybe I conceptualized, and I think God gave me the idea. But I think that there were so many people in our industry that were like, we need a breath of fresh air, but we can all speak, whether it's like venting or talking about what happened to us, or how many times did we walk into the courtroom and they called us a court reporter. Nothing against court reporters, but like, why did everybody assume that like a woman couldn't be the attorney in the room? So I think that there was definitely a need for it. And the space became so important in our community, which is why it's become a brand. Like, there was often times when I was working in my old firm where I would litigate every day, and I would go into like different courthouses, whether it was Miami-Dade, Broward County, or West Palm. And women would come up to me like, wait, are you Mrs. Esquire? Like, they didn't really know how to pronounce my name or say my name, or didn't know what my name was. But it became its own identity. I'm like, I should change my name to Miss Esquire. But it really became its own identity, which is kind of crazy, but also amazing. And I just love hearing the stories of how many people this group has helped. And that's really what we try to embody in that community. It's never been self-serving. It's never been to make money. It's never been, the real idea and the premise behind it has always been to help and uplift other women that are in the same communities. Yes. And so it's been a beautiful journey. And I met Trisha, who's actually one of my best friends, but she's the vice president of our group. I met her. And then we spun that Facebook group, which we would have events and we would meet on a monthly basis, but we made that group into what's now called the Miss Esquire in-person network, which is like the in-person chapter. So Every year it's evolving. Now we have the Miss Esquire Zoom. So there's just a lot of, I feel like every year there's more need and we get more ideas from other women in our community. And we're trying to make it better. And just a safe space for everybody that's practicing for sure.
Wow. Okay. I'm seriously amazed. And I'm also kicking myself that I didn't get involved, when I was really, really young. I mean, obviously there's so much now that I can offer, but when I was just getting out of law school, just starting my practice, consistently all the jobs I had, except for one, pretty much my entire team was male. All the partners certainly were male that I worked with. And, just feeling like something maybe was wrong with me. I'm also a first generation lawyer. Both my parents' families immigrated from Poland. So a lot of people in my family have not gone to college. No one had gone to law school. Right. And so I felt very much a sense of, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know who to go to for advice. And I definitely struggled in silence for way too long. That's kind of just my personality. Like I can figure it out. I don't need anyone's help, which I've had to definitely let go of that now that especially now that I have a law firm, because I've realized that helping each other is everything with no agenda, just being willing to help someone else and it will get, ultimately repaid in return in one way or another. So I'm regretting that, new lawyer Lauren, because we're like almost the same year. I graduated 2012. I really wish I would have known you back then. I think it would have been really, really helpful for me. So that's just amazing. And I'm really, really blown away. So you have the Facebook group, which is huge. How many members did you say are in there now?
So we have a little bit over 10,500. Wow. And then we have the in-person chapters we have 8. So 2 in Miami, 2 in Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, West Broward, Boca, and Orlando. And then now we created also, they're all category exclusive groups that kind of segued into, we felt like our profession isn't the only one that needs community. And so we added non-attorneys into the group. So realtors, mortgage brokers, bankers. And so we have 8 of those chapters that meet once a month. And kind of all we talk about is business and how to scale and how to grow and all of our ideas and share kind of how we got to where we are, which is really special. And then we now created a virtual Zoom, which is going to allow anybody that's part of our community or that wants to be a part of a community to join on our quarterly Zooms. So this is just like, we'll have different topics. And then we just launched our last one. We're going to have another one March 20th. But the idea is to really have a space where people can join virtually. We have so many people in California and in New York that are constantly like, when is Miss Esquire going to come there? And I can't be everywhere. So I feel like, this is a way for us to cross collaborate and connect.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so far the in-person groups are just in Florida, or do you have other groups outside of Florida that are in person?
So we don't right now. The next one's going to be in New York. So listen, there's so much time for you to be a part of this community. It's not too late. But we continue to expand and we're always looking for like people that have great ideas and want to help us grow. And it's not even about scaling for us. It's just, there's a need and like, we want to fill it, where we want people to feel like, like young Lauren didn't have this, but like, how can we get it to the next generation that maybe felt that way? Like, how do we get people, I love sometimes that maybe I'm like I've been practicing for a decade, but oftentimes in some of these rooms, I'm mentored by people that have been practicing and had their own firms for 30, 40 years. So, wow. I mean, we have judges that are part of our organization. The current Chief Justice supports our organization all the time. She did a speech and mentioned our group, which I thought was crazy. But what I think is so beautiful, and I'm so honored, is that I get to be a part of a group that's 100 times smarter than me, that has done 100 times things better than I have, that is courageous, that has been fearless in advocating for their clients. And I learn so much every time I'm around them. And so, our goal is to continue to allow people to be a part of it and to grow with our community and to meet people that can inspire them to to be advocates in what we do.
It's amazing. And I mean, I think just, from young Lauren to current Lauren, one of the biggest things that I think was missing was someone saying, hey, let me reach my hand out. Let me show you the way. Let me help you build your business, because especially when I think back to my big law days, there were many, many times where my entire team was gone golfing. Like they were gone golfing and then they were at the bar, they were talking, the partners were bringing the younger male associates into these relationships and they were mentoring them and they were really, bringing them into the deals when so many times that wasn't occurring for me. And I don't golf, so it's not even that I fault them for that, but it was just the feeling of I'm not one of you. I'm kind of over here doing my thing and I'm bringing value, but I don't feel like, you're really bringing me into the fold, if you will, which, if you want to make partner at a big firm, medium-sized or small firm, you need your own book of business. You really do. Yes, there are service partners out there, but the way that you really can get to that level, which the number of women, as you mentioned, partners in law firms, especially in the bigger firms, it's dismal. It's insane, in 2025, how few women are partners in law firms. Yeah. And that's one of the ways that it happens. People saying, let me show you how to build a book. Let me bring you into this deal. Let me introduce you to this client. So as I maybe phase out, you can phase in. That's how it happens. Yeah. And it doesn't happen nearly enough. And Miss Esquire really fills that void in a really special way. So kudos to you for building it and growing it to, what it is today. It's amazing.
Thank you, friends. And I was just going to mention, I was on a panel with Judge Safey, who's the Chief Justice of Miami-Dade. And she mentioned to me that like when she goes to visit law firms, like these big law firms, just to your point, where she would walk in and it'd be like, we have a women's diversity group. We have all these things. And she's like, how many shareholders do you have that are women? And then they don't have an answer. And it's like the reality is that space is not created. There is still, no matter how many women go into a profession, there is a huge disproportionate amount of men in this, like, at the top versus women. And I definitely felt like there still is that issue. I mean, we're closing it a little bit more every year. We're getting better at closing the gap. But I definitely think that it's still an issue. And I think that's why it's important for us to kind of cross collaborate, send business to each other, help the younger generation kind of figure out like, what did they do? I mean, I remember I was never afraid to put myself into a room, even if I had absolutely nothing, did not know a single thing of what I was saying or doing. So I remember I would tell like the marketing director there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go crash Sabadel's party is having a banking party and I'm going to see if I can bring him in as a client. They're like, you're going to go crash him? Like, yes, it's in the same building as us. And, I would try to make myself get an introduction in the room. And so I would encourage like anybody who's listening to this, especially if you're young, whether you were young Lauren or young Rahysa at the time and you feel like you can identify yourself with this, I feel like make a space for yourself in the room, like have the uncomfortable conversation with these men and these partners and say like, I love that you're bringing these people. I'd love to be a part of it. Even if I don't golf, we'll figure it out. Like I create a space for yourself, find like meetings that you don't think they're going to have the courage and listen. Out of the 20 parties that I would crash that were important, that were for businesses, I didn't always get business, but I did land business my first year and I brought it into a big firm and I knew absolutely nobody connected me to it. But I think it takes like guts and perseverance to get into a room and be like, I'm going to meet somebody in here and make my mark in this place,
Yeah. Yeah. So. And do it scared, do it uncomfortable. You're not going to feel comfortable most likely with doing something like that for a long time. You will get to that point, but just do it, put yourself out there, be open to meeting people, listen to what they have to say, remember what they said, follow up with them. I mean, it will get you so far. If you don't put yourself out there, then it's going to be really hard to grow and build.
Yeah.
It really is.
Great.
I was reading a story kind of on this topic about Ruth Ginsburg Bader. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she was saying that, when she graduated from Harvard, she applied to all these jobs and no one would hire her. And one of her former mentors actually said, I will not send you, to these law firms. I will not send you any more candidates until you hire her. And I was like, how amazing would it be in our lives to have someone like that who really stands up for you, advocates for you, and like puts you in the rooms where you need to be when you can't get there yourself. I mean, that's really how relationships happen, how the magic happens. That's what men have been doing for forever.
Right.
And I think it's so important as women, and with men as allies, of course, that we do that for each other, that we do say, hey, I see an opportunity here, or I want to introduce you to this person, or I think this could be a great opportunity, or I'm going to give you a shot to work on me on this, on this matter and help you learn.
Yeah. I think I mean, listen, the person that mentored me is one of my dearest friends. When I left Big Law and I came to start my own firm, I decided to do real estate, and I honestly did not know anything. So sometimes opening the door is going to look very differently. Maybe it's not like getting you into the right room, but it's asking the right person, like, hey, will you be willing to share your resources and knowledge with me? Because I too want to do this for my kids. And I want them to be like, wow, mom, I'm really proud of the fact that you were able to start your own firm and like, go after your dreams. And I remember asking one of my close friends, Natalie, which I always shout her out because I think this is what we need to get better at. Sometimes people feel like there's not enough at the top for all of us, and there is. And I specifically asked her to teach me something she did, which is, real estate. And I told her my intentions of starting my own firm. And she's like, of course, come sit in my firm. I will teach you. I will explain everything to you. And I don't think there's enough people that are willing to do that. And she told me, which I love this, because she told me, I'm glad you asked me, because my entire life in my career, I asked somebody else and she said no. And I always said, if somebody ever asked me, I'm promised to never be that person. Like, I promise to teach them and to help them. Right. And so she really has given me that and then some, because we still talk a lot. Like, I think I talk to her on a weekly basis, and we still bounce ideas off of each other, but there is definitely enough room in the top, and we really need to pay it forward. And I think that's a difference sometimes, like where people, they're afraid to, like, everything I built, you think it's going to be gone because somebody else, like, your client's not my client. Even if you and I did the exact same thing, there's enough clients for everybody in the room to succeed. Right. And so I don't know. I always share her story because she's part of the reason why I'm where I'm at right now. It's like, I asked and she said yes. And not everyone's going to say yes to you, but the person that does, it's like the person you're going to think forever. And anybody asks me, I'm definitely going to say yes. So, I think that's important. But if no one opens the door for you, open your own doors, you got to I don't think there's anybody that gave me, aside from this, me telling you the story, Natalie, I don't think there was anybody that ever introduced me to somebody that was going to open a door or anything. And you have to just know that you're capable of opening your own doors too, right? You need to be confident in yourself. And I knew, when I left my old firm, the last firm I was at, I knew I was still the hardest working person in that room. And it was going to be to his detriment to lose me, right? The same thing with RBG. Had she never been hired at that firm, it would have been to their detriment. Look, what an honor it is to have had somebody that literally paved the way for women and was one of the most incredible Supreme Court justices ever in our history, in our time, to have worked or been associated to that firm that almost didn't want to give her an opportunity, right? How much more amazing it would have been if somebody didn't need to convince somebody that she was worthy, right? You need to know your worth going into a room. And I think that needs to be the first thing every time you open your mouth, I'm worthy of this position and then some. And if you don't want to give it to me, it'll be you're missing out on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's so many things I can unpack from that. I mean, one, the fact that Natalie took you up on that, I think says volumes about, I don't know Natalie, but now I really want to, says volumes about her as a human. And the fact that you had the worth, Rahysa, to ask, If you hadn't asked, it's very unlikely that someone's going to come knocking on your door. Hey, do you want to start your own law firm? I'm going to be there for you. And I'm going to share my templates with you and help you. They're not going to do that. You had to have the courage and the self-worth and the guts to go ask her to do that.
Yeah.
So it does go both ways. We need good people out there who are willing to mentor and to be there, but you also have to, you have to take it upon yourself to open those own doors for you, because no one's going to do it for you.
Exactly.
I love that. I think that's such a cool story. And I definitely want to meet Natalie now. She sounds amazing.
There's a lot of amazing, incredible women in our group. And I think every day I'm inspired by somebody else. So I just had an event at my house for International Women's Month, because that's what we're going into in March. But we had an intimate night where everybody we had questions and everybody kind of could pop in and say whatever they wanted. We left, everybody was crying. They all kind of shared stories. But one of the questions that I loved is what's something you love or inspired by someone in this room? And it's hearing other women talk about what inspires them. Because oftentimes we're really hard on ourselves. And I did an entire presentation in Miss Esquire, and I noticed that there's the difference between men and women. Men are fantastic too, and women are fantastic in their own way. But, between men and women is that we sometimes don't think that we are worth whatever position or we're worth whatever raise, and we don't make the ask. So I love that we just talk about doors are not going to magically open. You need to make the ask. But, oftentimes when they look at why we're also disproportionately getting raises, and we're not, because women don't make the ask. Whenever we are going to apply for a job, if it says must have 5 years of experience, we take that to heart. We're we don't have 5 years experience. I can't apply for the job. I have literally had people that I'm looking for a paralegal or a legal assistant. And I've had truck drivers apply. And I'm
oh my God,
I need to do the experience. But what that tells you is that men are I don't care what it says. I'm going to apply regardless. They are going to put themselves into that room and get an interview, because even if they were a truck driver, they want to be my legal assistant. So it's that's how different we think. We're always oh, no, 5 years of experience, we're underqualified, I can't apply. So oftentimes it's shifting that mentality. And I think that's what our organization group is all about. It's did you ask, what are your being prepared for the conversation? Know what you bring to the table, know how you make, that firm better, separate yourself from other people that are at your firm. Do you bill more hours? Do you stay later? Do you sacrifice more things? Do you intentionally care about your work? All those things, while all these people are golfing and getting, what is it that separates you from all of them? And I think that's so important. And I think as women, we're really hard on ourselves. So I loved that night because they all kind of shared something that they loved about somebody in the room. And I feel even the women were taken back by it. They were surprised that they these women had such incredible things, but we kind of see it in other women, but we sometimes don't see it in ourselves. So that's important for sure, to change the narrative.
Yeah, I agree. That's really cool. I love that you did that. And sometimes it is a little hard to listen to people tell you about yourself, but it's also really cool to hear, how you've influenced them or impacted them or inspired them, because we all have incredible gifts that are very unique to each and every one of us. And the more that we can be out in the world and sharing those gifts, the better, our community will get. So that's really, really cool. You have so many amazing things going on. If someone is interested, I know it's super high demand, with the Facebook group and also the in-person, but if someone is interested, they're this is exactly what I need. How can they get involved? And, is there a different answer if they're, a baby lawyer versus a more experienced lawyer?
No, so there is not. We do interview everybody to get into our in-person groups. We are going to continue to expand some of them. Right now, we're working on there's just a lot more need than there is space. Trisha and I go to all 8 of these lunches. So that's where It's become a little bit difficult to get 30, chapters, but we will get there one day. But for now, one way to really get plugged in is through our Zoom, because that allows you to also go to all the events, and there's going to be a separate kind of membership for that. But you can just email admin@missesquire.com. So it's admin and then MS Esquire, ESQUIRE. I was checking myself because I thought I spelled it wrong. Admin@missesquire.com. And you can go to the missesquire.com website too, and you can input your information there, and we can send you all of it. It's free to join the Zooms right now, so it'd be great for people to kind of plug in, even if you're not like in South Florida, you can't go to any of your chapters, or maybe your category is already filled. The goal is to really bring value every single month and in these conversations, and help people kind of connect with other incredible women and mentors within the group. So yeah, they can plug in there. And it doesn't matter if you've been practicing for 1 year or 50, you are all welcomed. We're all part of the same community and group and family. And so, yeah, the more the merrier.
I'll definitely be joining the Zoom. That's amazing, because it's one of the things that I've been struggling with is 2 little boys, building a law firm, carving out time for networking, which is so important, but can be so hard. So that's absolutely amazing. I'm excited about that. And we'll put all of that in the show notes, so anyone who's interested can check you out, follow you on Instagram. Where are the best places to connect with you? Is it Instagram? Is it email?
Yeah, so you can email me. I'm a real estate attorney. So if you have any questions on that, or if you just want to email me, I'm happy to talk to you about whether it's Miss Esquire or doing something similar or networking. And it's rvargas at Vargas Law, P as in purple, A as in apple.com. So rvargas at vargaslawpa.com. So yeah, you can email me, and I'm happy to connect with you for sure. So that's probably the best way, email. And then the Miss Esquire, you can also follow us there. I post on there.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. This has been such a great, episode in honor of this month. And I'm just so happy, always so happy to chat with you. I really, really enjoy it. I'm seriously very, very inspired by you. I can't wait to get more involved and to get to know you better. And just, I'm almost at my 2-year mark for my firm. So I need to soak up all that good energy as we grow, and, all the ebbs and flows and ups and downs of owning a law firm.
First off, you're doing amazing. You have time for kids and a podcast and other organizations, and give yourself more credit. You have to give yourself more credit than you probably do, but you're crushing it. And I strongly believe that everything that you're putting into this, you're going to see so much fruit of it in the future, and your kids are going to see it too. So kudos to you for starting your own firm and breaking out there. And I love connecting with you and catching up with you today. And thank you for having me.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.